something in my eye. I need my 1/3 cup. There is something in my eye, swear. Swear on it. You are going to be delicious meal. I'm going to kill you to eat you today. Don't tell Doug. Anybody else get like attached to their plants? Because Doug got attached to these plants. I used some basil for a recipe and he was like, "Is that from Hazel?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what she's for. That's what she's for." She got tall. She's a thick girl. She's a thickums, if you will. I gotta start to water. Happy burp. How do I look today? Doug told me that I looked very pretty today. I know. It's a little sus. Oh, my mic is dying. I need to do this very quickly. Cállate de boca. Spooky Sunday dinners. Spooky Sunday dinners. Spooky Sunday dinners. I still can't afford a theme song. We're actually, again, going to use it this week, so I'm as shocked as you are. Hi, for those of you that don't know, my name is Johnnie Taylor. I realized that I had only been saying my first name this whole time, and you had no way to find me. Wow. I hope you can't hear that, because there's somebody outside of my apartment vacuuming the hallway. They're vacuuming the hallway, but they won't give me new carpet. Okay, that's fine. That's going to be an email later. But yes, my name is Johnnie Taylor, and this is Spooky Sunday Dinners, where every Sunday, maybe every other Sunday, it's getting hard. Maybe I want to be late, it's going to be on a Monday. And there's still something about a Thursday that I think will just trip you up. We talk about a true crime story that I just really fucking want to talk about while we make usually a fairly easy recipe. Today is no exception. This might be easier than last week. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And on that note, you know what time it is. I hate this more and more every week. But yes, it must be done. Hi, Karen. Every week I have to let you know, these are not professional recipes. I don't have any nutritional facts and these aren't for nutritional value. This is just what I feel like making that night and I think I'll share it with you. Again, these are not professional. I'm telling you, barely mediocre. If you make this and you don't like it or you fuck up and get sick, it's not my fault. Weekly disclaimer number 2. This is Spooky Sunday Dinners. As you can tell by now, we get spooky. We talk about true crime, murder, serial killers, disease, and we add a little comedy into that because this is a true crime comedy cooking show. If that offends you in any way, shape, or form, makes you uncomfortable, or fills you with rage to the point where you want to write me an email or send me a direct message about how terrible of a person I am, you're too late, Karen. I know. But really, if that offends you in any way, maybe you just shouldn't watch this. Now that we got the disclaimers out of the way, let's go over what we're talking about and making this week. This week, I thought we would kind of switch it up a bit. Little less murder, little more cult. That's why we are going to take the next half hour to talk about Heaven's Gate. That's right. Fucking Heaven's Gate. If you don't know about it, strap in. Because she's another doozy this week. But while we talk about it, we are going to be making the easiest homemade pesto sauce. I'm going to be pairing it with some penne pasta, you know my love for penne, and some sauteed shrimp. Super easy. My biggest recommendation for this recipe is to make 2 servings, one for pasta and one to just have some pesto in your fridge. Pesto chicken sliders, pesto dipping sauce, drink it, bathe in it, worship it, do what you gotta do. So I will this week be putting in the description exactly what we're using, but let's just go over it so you don't get mad at me. The first thing I have is a large pot of water on my stove. We're gonna bring that to a boil, and this week we are going to heavily salt that pasta. I know every week I say heavily salt your pasta, but this week I mean like heavily salt your pasta. Get salty with it. The reason we want to do this is because we want that pasta to already have some flavor before we mix in this sauce. Now, while we bring that to a boil, here's some other ingredients we are going to need. Raw, whole pine nuts. The brand doesn't matter. I know that they're fucking expensive. We're only using a little bit, so get what you can. Fresh garlic. 2 cloves per serving to be exact. That really good Violife Parmesan cheese. I don't know what it is about this, but if you don't eat dairy like me, sponsor me, guys. If you do eat dairy, get fancy with it. Parmigiano Reggiano, you know what I'm talking about, the TikTok cheeses. If you eat dairy, use them. Pretty good amount of olive oil. This is what's gonna make our sauce thicker or thinner once we kind of get into making it. Just wait, just trust me. Obviously, saute shrimp, some shrimp. I don't know if you can see this week. Can you see it? Honestly, I'm just using some frozen shrimp I got from Whole Foods. And there's no difference between Whole Foods shrimp and Ralph's shrimp. I'm just gonna say it. I truly think Whole Foods is a scam. That's just me. Obviously, salt, pepper, and garlic powder for the shrimp to taste. You know I love those. And finally, the real stars of the show today. I would like to introduce you to 2 members of our family that we care for greatly, we love with our whole heart, and we thank them for what they do for us. This is Azel and Hazel, the basils. But really, these are our basil plants. We're going to be using about 2 cups packed per serving, so make sure you got a thick one. When I got this girl, she was tiny. She was tiny. No, she's thick. She is thick as I'm trying to be. So yeah, you know what we need. It's going to be down below in the description. Let's get started on what the fuck Heaven's Gate is. I keep checking my mic because it's dying because I forgot to charge it. So I got my notes here. Let's just fucking dive in. So Heaven's Gate was an American UFO religious cult. It ended being near San Diego, California. We'll get into all the different places that they traveled. It was founded around 1974 by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. You might have heard of this one. You know, tracksuits, Nike shoes, shaved heads. Kind of just what every SoundCloud rapper looks like now. Is there something you guys are trying to tell us? Anyway, before we can fully understand the cult and what they were trying to teach, let's jump into a little backstory. So we're going to start with Marshall Applewhite. He was born in Texas in 1931. His father was a minister. Now, do I know the difference between minister, preacher, priest? I don't, but he was a minister. And his father kind of put the idea into his head to combine aliens into Christian theology. We can't judge. I have no idea. And I truly have nothing against that. I think that you should practice whatever it is that you believe in, and it's none of my fucking business, unless you are hurting others, obviously. So he had 3 siblings, and growing up, all of the kids were very religious. Later, he ended up earning a bachelor's degree in philosophy. That was in 1952. Then he enrolled at Union Presbyterian Seminary. Again, not totally sure that last word. But he went there to study theology and hopefully become a minister like his father. Around that time, he married a woman by the name of Ann Pierce. Kind of right away after they were married, they had 2 kids. Now, this is where he decided that he wanted to pursue music, so he drops out of school and becomes the music director for a Presbyterian church in North Carolina. In 1954, he was drafted into the Army and served in Austria and New Mexico. That's where I'm from. No, I'm not a member of Heaven's Gate. Neither were my parents. So he leaves the military in 1956. It's not really for him, and he enrolls in the University of Colorado. This is where he earns his master's in music, and he's trying to focus on musical theater. Wouldn't it be so funny if he was like, my dream role is the Book of Mormon? From there, with that dream, he tried to move to New York to become a singer. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. That's when he begins teaching at the University of Alabama. Now, kind of right away, he was fired for pursuing a relationship with a student, which, as we know now, finally in 2020, that's not okay. Now, the bigger problem, besides the fact that it was a student, was that it was a male student. And him being super Christian back then, that wasn't very accepted in his church. Do I get why? No. That's a different conversation for a different day. Now, this affair with a male student kind of opened up Marshall to these struggles he was going to have with his sexuality. Unfortunately, Anne found out about the affair and they separated in 1956. 3 years later, they were officially divorced. You know, they were probably super young when they got married, and like, love who you love. That was a hard time. Like at that time, I think like if my husband were to come to me and be like, I like boys, I would be like, me too, do you want some pesto? But because of this, Marshall leaves Alabama and moves to Houston, Texas. This is where he gets a teaching job at the University of St. Thomas. And his students thought of him as somebody that they loved to hear speak. He was so engaging when he would perform lectures and things for them, and also said that his style was really great. In Houston, Marshall even became kind of a popular, well-known singer around town. He was the choir director of the Episcopal Church, another one that I don't know. And they were performing with the Houston Grand Opera. He was also the director of the music department at this school. Now, this is where he finally decides to live his life as an openly gay man. Now, everyone says openly gay man, but he also pursued relationships with women, which I think now in 2020 we can just say Marshall was an openly bisexual man. And there's nothing wrong with that. Why are you making it weird? I don't want to have another talk this week. Now, in 1970, he left the university. It was under speculation that this was because he pursued another relationship with a student, but it was never confirmed. So this is where things kind of take a turn for the worse. Unfortunately, Marshall's father dies about a year later, and this causes him to spiral into a terrible depression. It is said that because of this depression, he has to end up spending some time in a psychiatric hospital. Now, this is kind of good and bad because this is where he meets Bonnie Nettles. Now, Bonnie Nettles, her backstory is a little bit more basic than Marshall's. She was born in Houston in 1927, born and raised there, and she was from a super Baptist family. Did you expect me to know that one either? As she became an adult, she kind of left that religion and ended up becoming a registered nurse. She also married a businessman, and Nettles is her married name. They had 4 children, but her marriage started to fall apart when Bonnie was claiming that a 19th century monk named Brother Francis frequently spoke to her and gave her instructions on what to do in life. Her husband started to think she was going crazy because she conducted seances with mediums to talk to dead spirits. But so do I. So she studied astrology, the occult. We probably would have been friends and had a girls' night, is kind of what it's sounding like to me. So because of this, in 1972, she actually goes to see a fortune teller. And this fortune teller says that in the near future, she's going to meet a man. It's like a mysterious man, tall, light hair. Basically, she describes exactly what Marshall Applewhite looks like, which is America at that time. All the men look like that. So it is said that she's working at the hospital. Marshall is staying there. Obviously, she sees him and she's like, holy shit, that's my guy. And they start to become friends. So this is where Marshall gets Bonnie to do an astrology chart for him. And that's where apparently that's the moment that they had this spiritual connection, and they knew that the stars aligned for them. They were meant to be together. It felt like they had known each other for so long. They were soulmates, but it was platonic. We all have friends like that. We all have friends like that, and it's not weird. The sarcasm that I have in me is phenomenal. So then, on New Year's Day in 1973, Bonnie up and leaves her family. She leaves her kids with her husband. And at that time, Marshall had already totally later dazed his family. You know, he had 2 kids. He doesn't have anything to do with them anymore. They're with his wife. Thankfully, they are safe and away from these 2. But they decide they're going to leave and start their new lives. They start their new lives under the names Bo and Peep. I don't know, but Bonnie is Bo and Marshall is Peep. This is where Bo and Peep, Bonnie and Marshall, go on a 6-month road trip to really like put together what it is they believed in and how to go about spreading that good word, you know, a la Jonestown, a la Jim Jones, Charles Manson. But they really just wanted to spread the word like a rash. Also at this time, Marshall actually spends 6 months in jail for like not paying for or not returning a rental car they were using on the trip. So he got some street cred too. Our water has come to a boil, so I'm just gonna put, this is equal to a whole box of penne. I don't know why this is still shocking people that I actually use the pasta in these, but to each their own. Charlize Theron. Did you guys get that? That was an Orange is the New Black reference. Anyway, pour your pasta in. Pour it in. Make sure you have enough salt in there. Do you guys want to see the best purchase I think I've ever made in my entire life? I'm obsessed with it. Are you ready? It's this Beetlejuice tiki glass. Got it at Halloween Town. Straw not included, but it was worth it. It was worth the like $30. Yikes. So after the road trip, after the jail stay, Bo and Peep, Bonnie and Marshall, decide that they are ready to teach this UFO religion. And this is where they hold what is believed to be their first presentation of what is one day going to be called Heaven's Gate. They do this in Oregon. That's where Doug is from. Wonder if there's something he should tell me. So the flyers they were handing out for this were basically like old-timey paper clickbait. At the top of the flyer it said UFO in big letters. It was full of like conspiracy theories, sci-fi beliefs, and all like things like that that would really wrap you in. And with those teachings, Marshall and Bonnie are actually considered completely equal when teaching this religion. It's kind of said that Bonnie is the brains of it and Marshall is the mouth of it. But when it comes down to it, they are completely equal. No one is above the other, which I like. I like that. Be equal. Be equals. Because if you're like this, I don't know, be like this. But basically their teaching and what these flyers indicate is that 2 individuals who were sent from, quote, a level above human, they were like sent down and they were going to return to that level in a spaceship within the next few months. So like a spaceship was gonna come and like beam me up, Scotty, and that was where like you went into the afterlife with the aliens. I don't know, it sounds kind of nice. Something to believe in. Now this is what started what I like to call the traveling show. So this is where they just start traveling and giving these presentations and teaching their beliefs like as many places as they possibly can. And the name of the religion at that time was Human Individual Metamorphosis, which made me immediately think of that awesome Hilary Duff album. So yes, Human Individual Metamorphosis. Their belief was that that UFO was going to come down and like save them. That was their salvation. And it was going to take them to a level above human. Now this was known as Tela, and that stands for the evolutionary level above human. And this actually made them get kind of popular in Oregon. I mean, at one time they had like 200 people in one of their presentations. We're not dealing with like Jim Jones level numbers, but to believe that aliens are going to come save you, 200 people going to a meeting is kind of a lot of people. The shitty part about that was a lot of people would go to the initial meeting, but they wouldn't follow up and continue going and like join the church. What's crazy though is that really small amount of people that did continue going, that did believe that this UFO was going to come save them, were convinced by Marshall and Bonnie, Peep and Bo, Bo and Peep, to completely leave everything behind, their families, their possessions, everything they knew in their regular lives, and travel with them for what ended up being almost 20 years. Now, while the members traveled with them, they didn't have homes. They lived in extreme poverty, and they did whatever they could to survive. They willingly and happily lived like this because they were just waiting for that UFO to come and find them. And it was 100% what they believed in. And I really do think that this was the result of a lot of these people growing up in Christianity and having a lot of unanswered questions. These two people come to your town. They also believe in Christianity, have a bunch of Christian morals, but then have all of those answers that you questioned growing up. All those times you got in trouble for asking too many questions about the stories in the Bible, finding the plot holes, and like older people being like, these two people considered a level above human come and just fucking feed you the answers. I don't know, it might have wrapped me up too. I don't know. We really can't judge this. This is truly what people believed in. These people probably think what you believe in is insane, or what I believe in is insane. You know? A lot of these people in Heaven's Gate even went on to say that it felt like a, quote, modern Christianity. I don't know. I haven't had much luck with Christianity. I could do a whole episode on it, honestly. I don't really think we should go there, but if you ever want to hear about it, let me know. It's quite a story, you know? It's about Jesus and ballet, weirdly enough. But that's why I can't judge. So basically the idea is, once you join the church, you have to turn over everything. And funny enough, so you turn over all your stuff, you give them all your money, and you have to do the Beyonce cleanse. Like that cleanse that came out when she was like 21 days vegan. It was lemonade, cayenne pepper, and maple syrup. I don't know, honestly, like I did it. It wasn't for cult reasons, but it worked. It all came out. Every last sin in my stomach came out. So this cleansing process of drinking this craziness and getting rid of everything usually lasts around 3 months for you to be like totally cleansed. Unfortunately, at this time, it feels like Bonnie and Marshall are kind of like changing up like what they're preaching and what they believe in. It's contradicting this whole like soul situation, but people still like were just eating this up. They really did give like the church all of their money. So now everyone could afford housing. And they basically would like secretly rent houses, like cover up all the windows, go to these different places, teach a few classes, pack up, go to the next town. And at this time, they are saying, so the belief used to be that like one day they were gonna beam you up, right? They were gonna beam your body up, and then you would get there like to heaven and get like your new body, like your soul would go into your new body, and that was the afterlife. But then it switched to like your body died here and your soul moved, or it was like once you got there, your soul left your body and didn't go into another one. They just kind of kept changing it. They weren't as like strict and hardcore about it as like somebody like Jim Jones, where he would just preach the same thing to you and you'd be like, uh-huh. So everything's switching up. They go back to Texas and they tell their members that a, quote, forthcoming visitation from aliens was happening that night. They needed to go wait outside for the aliens. So these people immediately, they go outside, they wait outside all night for the aliens to come down. They were like, this is when we're gonna either meet the aliens or when they're gonna take our bodies up or our souls up. And they wait there all night. At the end of the night, Marshall and Bonnie come outside and they're just like, surprise, it was just a test. No one's coming. We just wanted to see how dedicated you were. It's like you're exhausted waiting all night thinking like your salvation is gonna come, and then they just jump out of the bushes and they're like, gotcha, bitch. I would have been so angry. I would have left right then and there. Somehow they had 40 members at this time that they did this to, and were like okay with it. Like 40 people believing that, to me is like, I couldn't even think. I couldn't even picture 40 people in a room being like, praise the UFO. But what was kind of great about this little like charade was that it helped them weed out who wasn't dedicated. So if you question that and you were like, hey, why are you doing this? They'd be like, you're not dedicated to me, GTFO. So they actually ended up doing this every once in a while, and people fell for it and did it every single time. Like, these members at this time were just so desperate for their approval, specifically like Marshall, which was kind of weird. It just got so competitive. They would do anything, give all their money, stay out all night, believe every last thing that he said. So our pasta is finished boiling. What we're gonna do this week, and not fucking forget like I did last time, reserve pasta water. You actually really do need it. So by around the 1980s, they have about 85 members, and most of them actually are holding normal jobs. A lot of them work with computers, or they're like car mechanics, and they actually had no contact with their families. It wasn't like allowed, which is very interesting to me. They were allowed to make 2 phone calls to their family. One of those was in 1981, the other was in 1983. Now, also in 83, they allowed the members to go visit their family on Mother's Day. So they could kind of like go visit them and be like, I'm fine, I'm there on my own free will. I want to be there. I want to be with these people. I want to believe in UFOs. I want alien Jesus to come find me. And Marshall and Bonnie kind of had the normal cult thing where it was like, you can leave if you want to leave, but just remember, like, you gave us all your money. Your family at this, it's probably people that weren't accepted by their family, maybe because of their sexuality or questioning their religion. And they're like, well, your family doesn't accept you. Your church doesn't accept you. We accept you. So where are you going to go? We have all your money. We have all your assets. We have a place for you to live. Like, I mean, go ahead, try it. And then obviously you'd be like, I can't do this. Kind of reminds me of like an abusive relationship, or these other religions that maybe aren't considered cults but are hard for people to like break out of. I feel like it kind of reminds me of Breaking Amish. Phenomenal TLC show. If you know, you know. It was a good show. But in order to keep this going with the families that had questions, they said that they were staying at a Montessori studying computers. Montessori? A Montessori. That's not like the school where the kids like wash their feet, right? That's something else. Okay, so we've got our pasta done. We're pretty far into the story. What we're gonna do is prep everything we need, and you actually don't have to cook this sauce. We're gonna toast the pine nuts for about a minute, but the whole sauce is actually just gonna go into a food processor or blender, whatever you have, and we're not gonna need to cook it at all. The first thing I'm gonna do is get about a whole cup of cheese. Remember, cheese of your choice. Don't judge me for mine. I think it's delicious. And while I grate this cheese, so it's 1983, and at this time, Bonnie actually lost an eye to cancer. Her doctor actually informed her that the cancer was metastasizing and spreading. She needed to like go into treatment immediately or it was going to kill her. Bonnie is like, no, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, the aliens are gonna come get me. I don't have cancer. I can't die. I'm a level above human, and completely rejects all medical help and attention, which is crazy to me because remember when she first met Marshall, she was an RN. And because of this, people that kind of studied this cult and what they did, if you know the ending of this story, then you know. This is where they believe that it was around this time, maybe a little bit before that, where both Bonnie and Marshall suffered from schizophrenic episodes, like a schizophrenic break. And that's why they were believing what it was they were believing and thinking they were above human, the aliens were talking to them. They really did believe it. And it could have been because they were mentally ill. I don't know. But unfortunately, by 1985, Bonnie does die of cancer. It metastasizes very quickly. And I don't know, this might be a hard pill to swallow and a controversial statement, but unfortunately, cancer trumps UFO Jesus. All right, I have my 1 cup of cheese grated and ready. I'm just gonna throw it in the food processor in preparation for the other ingredients that are going to go in there. So the problem with this whole situation is that now Marshall looks like a liar because he told all these people that him and Bonnie they couldn't die, right? That they were too busy, like the UFO people were going to come and get them. And now it's like, well, Bonnie died from a medical condition. I'm going to take a small skillet on medium heat and I'm going to toast these pine nuts in it for just about 1 minute. This is where Marshall's beliefs change yet again. And this is where he now tells them that their bodies, they're just vessels carrying them on their journey and could be abandoned at any time. So now you don't have to wait for like the aliens to come and get you. You can just later days piece out of your body and just go to the aliens. So around this time, the amount of members in this church are fluctuating. You know, they had hundreds of them sign up and go to those first initial meetings, but then, you know, they'd be like, absolutely not, I don't believe this. So now we're getting into the 90s and there was only about 26 active members, which to me, like, that is still a lot. Like, it's still a lot for 26 people to really think that a UFO was going to come and get them, or they could just abandon their vessel and like beam up to the UFO. So now it is around 1993 and the group takes on yet another new name. So now their name is Total Overcomers Anonymous. All right, I can kind of start to smell these getting a little bit toasty. A couple of them are getting a little bit brown, but as soon as you can kind of smell them, you know that they're getting a little toasty warm. You can just go ahead and turn off that heat and throw these in with the cheese in that food processor. So now Total Overcomers Anonymous, they take out a full page ad, and this ad says, let me just read this to you. A catastrophic judgment to befall the earth is coming. It's like warning them. This ad cost them $30,000. And honestly, like, they killed it. They got new members. Now they're up to like between 36 and 39 members. They decide that they're going to kind of corner the market on the internet, and they're going to build a web page about their church. This was something at the time that like was not done. People just didn't go and like build websites for any old thing. So they put the money in, they had some web designers, and they actually ran a web development company, and that's how they were able to make a lot of this money. The company was called Higher Source. They created the web page. They went and they rented a gorgeous, giant, beautiful mansion. It was right outside San Diego. And yes, now they have around 39 active members. We're also going to take 2 cloves of garlic and throw it in the food processor as well. Did you guys know about this, like, squishing the garlic with the knife to peel it? Because I cook, like, I'm a cook, and Doug had to teach me it. I used to sit there and just, like, hand peel my little garlics, and one day he was like, what are you doing? Just with the knife. So now we've got 39 active members, we've got a mansion, we've got a full page ad, we've got a web page, and all these people are thinking, what is a better way to like get in with the aliens, let them know like this is where we want to be, we need to get to you right away. And this is where Marshall starts to kind of contemplate the idea of suicide. He introduces it to the group in a way of saying it kind of like, well, in order to ascend, you need to leave everything behind, including your vessel. I'm also just going to pick some fresh basil from Hazel and Hazel. Thank you guys very much. We're going to need about 2 cups packed, so this might take a while. So this is where it confuses me that people are like so down for everything he's saying, because in a matter of a few years, he's gone from beam me up, Scotty, to like kill yourself and our soul is going to go to the aliens. You know, you can't be like, on Monday, beam me up, Scotty, and then on Tuesday, you're like, oh my God, guys, let's all die together. So finally, because of kind of this idea, them trying to kind of get in a little bit better with the aliens, they finally settle on the name Heaven's Gate. At this time as well, a huge part of this group's beliefs is actually, quote, suppressing your sexual desires. So these were people that maybe were part of the LGBTQ plus community and were not kind of seen the same way in their community as other people. They've already kind of struggled with sexuality. I mean, Marshall has. So they've decided that they're just going to kind of throw that away altogether. A lot of them volunteered and wanted to. They say they went through surgical castration so that Marshall would like them better. I don't know, y'all. I was kind of feeling for you until you like went on the whole like let's cut our peepees off. Like I don't know. But I mean, sexuality for these people was viewed as one of the most like powerful sources that bound humans to their bodies, and that's what hindered their efforts to evolve to that next level. Which, if you think about it, after them saying like he was going to go to hell for what he believed in when he was younger, it kind of makes sense that he thinks that your sexuality and just the sexualization of you in general hinders you kind of going to heaven. Okay, so before we put our 2 cups of basil, we're actually just going to blend together those first 3 ingredients that we had. The pine nuts, the cheese, and the garlic. We're gonna blend this until it makes kind of a paste before we go in and add the next few ingredients. So this is now just kind of like a chunky, almost sand textured paste. And that's the consistency we need before we go ahead and go in with all we're going to finish this off with is our 2 cups of fresh basil and about 1/3 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. But basically, because sexuality is viewed in that way, this is where they get the idea to do the matching tracksuits, matching haircuts, where they all look the same, nothing is changing about them kind of situation. This is so they could just not be looked at as sexual beings in any way. You guys, this plant took so long to fucking grow in that we can only have fresh pesto every once in a while. Other than that, we gotta go to Little Tony's. If you live in the Los Angeles area, like in the Valley, 10 out of 10 would recommend Little Tony's. Their pesto, like, it's not as good as this one that you're making, but you can buy it and kind of doctor it, and it'll definitely get the job done. Pick the basil. All right, we got that 2 cups of basil in there. I'm gonna start with about 1/3 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil, and we're just gonna blend that until we have pesto sauce. So once you've blended that to your liking, you should have a creamy yet kind of chunky pesto sauce that we're going to mix into our pasta once we make the shrimp. Look, it's not going to be that much longer. Chill out. To make this shrimp, I'm going to throw some oil in a pan, salt, pepper, garlic with it until it's done cooking. This is not rocket science. I just needed some protein. Been eating nothing but carbs. So in October of 1996, the group has this like nice ass mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. It's kind of around San Diego area. And this is where they decided they're gonna make 2 video messages for their website. Now this is Marshall kind of doing like this is your last chance to evacuate Earth so that the aliens can like come and get you. I watched them, don't do it. And like I watched them on like the big TV in the living room, and I'm almost positive Doug is like worried about me now. Worried. I don't even know why he's surprised at this point. So the making of these videos is kind of genius because it coincides with this comet that's going to pass over Earth. The comet is called Hale-Bopp. So this comet was like this huge deal. It was like the biggest and brightest comet, once in a lifetime thing. It was going to pass over. It was going to be so bright. And honestly, it just reminds me of like the comet in that Jonathan Lipnicki feature film, gold, Oscar-worthy film, The Little Vampire. You know, when like the comet goes over and then the dad is like, "Au volfo in toto el desperandum sine fine." If you couldn't recite that whole thing as a child, like, are you even spooky? Check yourself. Evaluate yourself. But anyway, they think that Hale-Bopp is going to go over Earth. And when it does, there is actually a spaceship following behind it. And guess who is on that spaceship getting ready to bring them all aboard? Fucking Bonnie. Now they believe that she left early to get this ship ready to follow Hale-Bopp. Marshall was trying to get the word out as much as possible because he really was worried for these people and their salvation. And he was like, we gotta get to it. We gotta go. Andale. So now in 1977, the group of 39 people goes into total isolation in that mansion. While they were in isolation, they all filmed farewell videos, most of them praising Marshall for saving them and looking forward to the afterlife. Marshall filmed one as well. So the plan is commit suicide while the comet is above them so they can ascend onto the spaceship. And they have to do it during this very specific 3 days because they cannot miss this comet. So what do as like a last hurrah before they decide to off themselves for this comet? They go full tracksuit, Nike shoe, shaved head to Marie Callender's. This is going to be like their last supper, which is not dumb. Like if you're gonna go out, like go out with some pie. That place is honestly kind of fire. I won't even pretend here. Now they all also had the exact same meal. They had iced tea, salad, turkey pot pie, and for dessert, cheesecake with blueberries on top. Sounds delicious, honestly. Okay, now that our shrimp is finishing up cooking, we're just gonna take that pasta that we made earlier, throw it back in the same pot. A little bit of that pasta water. And our whole thing of our delicious pesto. We're actually just going to mix that all together while adding a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Make sure you get a nice mix, and this pesto doesn't seem like it's a whole lot, but it will coat all of this pasta really nicely. It's going to give it a nice light coating of pesto, and with all the garlic and seasoning that we're using, it's going to be great. You can continue to add pasta water if you like. I just used about a half a cup-ish, but it's really up to you. And now that our shrimp is done, let's finish up this story, finish up this dish, get it plated, go about your weekend. So on March 22nd, 1997, the suicides start. Basically, these guys, they took sedatives, drank alcohol, and then fell asleep with bags over their heads. They died wearing those tracksuits and those shoes, so they all looked exactly the same. And most of them were found face up, lying in bed with like a piece of like purple cloth over them. Now, the tracksuits and the shoes. We kind of have to cover this because it's a big one. It's a huge conspiracy theory. They were not purchased because they had anything to do with Nike. It was because they were buying in bulk, and at that time, Nike just had the best prices. These tracksuits were purchased because of financial reasons and not because of the style or brand. Don't believe any of the Reddit bullshit about Nike, okay? So the suicides occurred over like 3 to 4 days. And the last people left were 4 total, Marshall included. He had 3 people that assisted him with his suicide, and then they died from there. The police do get an anonymous tip at this time that something is going on in that big mansion and they need to do a welfare check. That is when on March 26th they discover the 39 bodies. They were all dead in their bunk bed and they all looked exactly the same. They also were all found with an armband on their tracksuit that said Heaven's Gate Away Team. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm like, Marshall, I see what you did. I see it, I saw it, I recognize it, I appreciate it, we're gonna move on. Now, the bodies did have bags next to them with whatever cash they had on them and their identification, so they could easily be identified for their families and loved ones. Now, this is the biggest mass suicide involving US citizens since Jonestown. So, like, obviously, this blows up in the media. It is fucking everywhere. And, like, I asked my parents about it, and apparently they just didn't pay attention. Thanks a lot, guys. Like, they paid not 1 cent of attention. I couldn't. I was barely even alive. This was so big, Marshall was on Time magazine. And look, I'm not judging. Who's to say they're not actually on that spaceship right now, living a better life than we are in 2020? I'm just saying. Like, this shit was real to them. This was how they were going to end their lives, and they chose to. You know, this wasn't a story of people, like, trapped and murdered and forced to drink the Flavor Aid at Jonestown. This is people that believe this, that with their whole heart dedicated themselves to Marshall and Bonnie and this religion, and really do think they did the right thing. I think that these stories are really important because I think we need to understand the people in these cults. I think we need to understand how they can get wrapped in it. I think we need to be a little bit less judgy and a little bit more like, did they need help? Unless you're like a cult leader, unless you're a Jim Jones, Manson, Applewhite, then if I saw you on the street, I'd be like, oh my God, hi. That's a new one. You can use it. You can take that from me. If you see someone you don't like, just wave nicely. Hi. But anyway, I just wanted to really like push the fact that we're not judging this, because I don't want to judge people's religions or beliefs, because I know mine are weird as shit and people think I'm crazy for it. So I don't want to judge them. I don't want them to judge me, but I want us to understand why people kind of fall into this and get trapped into it. This is a judgment-free zone. I mean, for fuck's sake, I talk about murder 24/7. The most easily judged person in the world. But really, I would love for you to comment down below and tell me what you think about this. Tell me maybe if they would have gotten you, because they might have gotten me. When I was like 11 years old doing ballet for Jesus, being judged, having a terrible experience, they might have gotten me. I'm just saying. Now that I got that spiel out of the way, let's plate this and see if I did a thing. I did it again. Guys, this recipe is so easy, you can't fuck it up. It's honestly, those measurements are just more of a guideline anyway. This is really just about to taste than anything. I'm also trying something a little bit different this week. I'm going to put my shout outs and stuff at the end of the video this week, because the beginning of last week's video got like a little long and a little dragged out, and I'm sure you clicked away. But this week, the quickest shout out here at the end. My first one is to this shirt that I'm wearing. It's actually from another really cool spooky brand. It's called Straight Out of the Coffin. I'm going to link the website below and give you their Instagram name. And also, maybe you're like, wow, Johnny, your lips look really healthy. They look really good. Well, that's because I'd like to give a shout out to this really dope brand. It's called Apocalips. Get it? It's funny because it's 2020 and I do think that the world is ending. But anyway, my new friend Greg at Apocalips makes some fucking awesome, like really great organic, vegan, and cruelty-free chapsticks. I really like it. And they come in really cool flavors. Like this one is chai latte. But the dope part about it is he makes these fucking awesome chapsticks. But if you're like me, you're a whore for a candle, he makes some really amazing candles. This one gives me like, I don't really know, because I feel like it's dare I say better than a Bath and Body Works Midnight Blue Citrus. I don't know, it's fresh, it's floral, it's fucking awesome. I'm gonna link this down below as well. I'm gonna give you everyone's Instagram, and yeah. Thanks for cooking with me today. Thanks for chatting with me today. This one was a weird one, I know. Hope you enjoyed it, even if you didn't. It's the end of the video. You made it. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on this, some future crimes that I should cover, maybe some recipes, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching Spooky Sunday Dinners. I am still singing. I still can't afford a theme song. I'm gonna throw it and catch it. Ready? What'd you think? Do you like it? This is gonna keep me so hydrated. This is gonna be bomb. I'm gonna go wait for Doug to die in his game.